Hello, everyone. How are you doing now? Hello. Yes.
Still awake?
Yes. Um, Hi, everyone. I'm Aayati Dashkar. I'm the host of Girls Talk STEM, which is a space where imagination meets innovation, and where we believe that every girl deserves a seat at the table, or at the lab bench, or behind the coding screen. I'm the youth lead for the World Women Foundation, and I'm so excited to be here, not just as your moderator, but as someone who truly believes that culture isn't something we inherit, it's something we invent. And in a world where we scroll more than we speak, and where TikTok and algorithms speak more for themselves, what happens to the deeper meanings, the shared joy, and the quiet magic of belonging? That's what we're here to uncover. And this session is presented to you by the Heidiseum Foundation, and today we'll explore that with some of the most inspiring minds across tech, museums, and storytelling. And before we dive in, I'm going to let all our panelists introduce themselves. We can start from this side.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aayati, for the nice introduction and for the welcome. My name is Peter Büttner. I'm the co-founder of Heidiseum, together with the other Peter. Like it's for the Heidi story, we called Peter. And we founded 6-7 years ago the Heidiseum project, the Heidi Heritage Project. We want to bring Heidi to a cultural next level because Heidi is very connected with Switzerland. Heidi is a Swiss symbol. She stands for Switzerland. But we think there is much more in this iconic figure to bring it to the next generation, to girls, to get a voice.
Yeah.
And I think I hand it to Peter now.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're very happy to be here and present the topic to you. Aayati, very glad to meet you for the first time in person. Aayati is actually our Heidi ambassador. We have her on the youth board. We are very convinced of her work. We love her work, and we love how much she identifies.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Yes,
and thank you for supporting the mission of Heidi, because I really believe that she stands for what she does too. Yes, I will.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it means a lot to us, and we see a lot of synergies between the World Women Foundation and Heidiseum. And just as Peter said, we want to bring Heidi on a new cultural and global level with different activities.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be with all of you here, and thanks for your time. Regarding myself, so I have 4 hats, but I only get paid for 1.5. So from the industry, I'm Cognizant's one and only chief data scientist. So it's an American-Indian company with 326,000 employees and 8th in the world. My second hat is I'm a professor of AI and quantum computing at the Swiss School of Business and Management in Geneva. And even though those are also quite impressive, I'm also a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council of Data Frontiers. That means that I have the chance as a woman to be able then to create the new concepts for data and digitalization for the future, and also what is the basis of worldwide policy. And I'm also a member of the United Nations Global Digital Council, which is also bringing what it is the basis for policy worldwide, what it is digital rights. And digital rights for everybody, but my main commitment is that for women and children, which is then when it comes to my 4th hat. And I support NGOs that bring what it is AI and data education to women and young girls in rural India. But I also do this right now, I'm extending it worldwide, because I think that empowering and bringing what it is the next type of literacy, AI literacy, to young girls and women is to protect them from the future of digitalization. Because currently most women are in all those jobs that are able to be completely automated. They're in marketing, they're in business, they're secretaries, they're doing tasks, unfortunately, most of them, that right now with agentic AI can be fully automated. So that's my commitment to bring then the message to all of you that AI is the new type of literacy. Just what it was to learn how to read or write or have PC skills or learn how to use a mobile phone or learn English as a second language. AI is the new literacy. Why? because we need now multimodal roles. We need artists that know AI. We need doctors that know AI. We need teachers that know AI. We need moms that need AI. And we need cultural people that know AI. Thank you.
It's a little bright out here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe we can bring it back down. Sure. Hi, I'm Angeline Martyn, and I'm the Chief Brand and Partnership Officer at the Museum of the United Nations, UN Live. We are not a museum that is here to archive. We're a museum that is here to activate. And our mission is to leverage the power of popular culture to meet the many where they are, to bring forward the values of the United Nations, to create a world where culture is informing belonging and empathy and the future we all want. Thank you.
Amazing. So today we're talking about culture in a digital world. And screens are everywhere, right? And we're using screens everywhere. But where is culture going? That's a big question. So I want to ask you, Ms. Angeline, UN Live is all about global connection through culture. So what are some of the biggest opportunities you see in building culture on screens?
Absolutely. I mean, screens are critical to activating. When you think about where the people are, they're gaming, they're on social media, they're watching TV, they're watching sports, they're watching series, and thinking not just about screens, but also with the rise of AI, it's about how do we make sure that these experiences are authentic, that there's a human connection in what's being communicated, and that there's values built into the messages that are conveyed in those screens. So we can easily become robotic in what's being put out, but how do we build with a little more intention?
Yes, talking about values, Dr. Büttner, you are working with Heidi. So I'm going to tell a little bit about my story with Heidi. So I first met Heidi when I was very little, growing up in India since I was 2 months to 9 years old. And I used to watch Heidi on Disney Channel or small TV channels. And then I first saw Heidi Goes AI on my LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And then that's how we started and that's how we met. So, Dr. Büttner, you're talking about values. So what values does Heidiseum protect in a world where digital life moves so fast? And it would be amazing if you could give a little bit of background information about Heidi and some of the values does she give.
Yeah, very interesting. No, it's amazing that Aayati came across with Heidi through AI, because if you know, the Heidi story is much more older than the recent project you have seen on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Because Heidi has a 145 years history behind. And let me briefly give you some outlines about the story Heidi, our project, our aims and goals, and about our organization. Peter will talk about it. But Heidi firstly appeared as a book in 1880. It was written by a Swiss female author called Johanna Spiri. And it happens very often with world literature that the authors behind their famous books got unknown. I don't know if you have heard about Johanna Spiri, the author, but I definitely think you have heard about Heidi, because everybody has a childhood memory with Heidi, because in the 70s, the Japanese released this famous animation film, which was broadcast in almost every country. And but Peter and I, we are the founder of the Heidi Heritage Project. The Heidiseum is a foundation, a non-profit foundation as well. And we think that the values of Heidi are so important in this world, because when you look into the newspapers, you need Heidi more than ever, because Heidi is a bridge builder between the nations. She unites people from all over the world with different religions. Heidi is open to everybody. She doesn't know any races. So everybody can be Heidi. It doesn't matter if girl or boy, but of course we want to inspire young women with our project because we think Heidi has the right values to share with the new generation. And maybe Peter, you want to add some more information with our.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the values, that's a very important note, because at the moment, or in the last decades, Heidi, of course, was very well known as a Switzerland ambassador, as a touristic phenomena. People knew it from the animation.
Yes.
But when it comes to the real story, the book, which is over 200 pages, by the way, it's a lot of messages and values that are universal and timeless. And really, we would like to bring these messages more into the forefront. We think it's important to bring them to the young generation. It's about empathy, it's about optimism, it's about joy of life, it's about keeping faith, tolerance, it's an inclusive topic. There's so much values in it. It's about sustainability at the end. She's well connected to nature, to herself, to the universe, to God, whatever you call it. So there's so much in that story that has real meaning, especially in a world, like Peter said, like today, where we are surrounded by so many crises, economically, politically, socially, etc. So we really we actually launched kind of a Heidi rebirth, renaissance, to emphasize these values much more than it has been done until now. Yeah.
That's amazing. And as I see, Heidi is a story rooted in nature and innocence. But how does it translate into a global and digital context?
Say again, please.
So how does Heidi's story reflect into a digital and global context today?
Well, for us, when we bring this topic on stage, in the age of screens, in digital world, it's just a chance to present it, display it in new ways, and reach new audiences. Especially the young generation. I mean, this is the best example that we reached out to you via LinkedIn, via the screens. You know.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you want to.
Yes, of course.
I was just going to say. I mean, when I hear the story of the values that you seek to carry on through the generations, and I think about that first copy that I had, you know, and how old it was, you know, in terms of the actual, I can picture the book in my hand, right? I think what you are doing as a brand and as a foundation mirrors what we're trying to do in leveraging the power of that medium. In that case, it was storytelling and reading, to bring those values to life for future generations. So what is it contributing to? It's contributing to the values of the United Nations broadly, right? Through this idea of empowerment and solidarity and trust and tolerance. And I think that's the kind of thinking that we're hoping that many here at Cannes today will be exploring about how they can live and breathe those values through the brand opportunities that they are promoting. So thank you.
Yeah, and you can imagine it's exciting to rethink and to update a traditional figure like Heidi. You know, she is, for the common people, Heidi don't connect her with AI or with big data and so on. But this is a big task to it, because it's so interesting. Aayati came across with Heidi through AI and not with a physical document from our archive, which is part of the UNESCO Memory of the World program since 2023. So that could be a big chance to promote the values with new technology. And maybe Kathrin has something to say about this, because I think how can we do this? How can we bring Heidi through AI and new technology to the next generation? How can we do this?
So I already mentioned this to Peter and Peter. One of the ideas that I have is that if you look at the story of Heidi, when did Heidi learn and open an incredible influencing, because she's an influencer within the story, was when she learned to read. At that moment, she was able then to go back to her village and read to what would be then another Peter in the story's grandmother. because unfortunately she was already vision impaired, and she wanted to go back to those stories. She wanted so much to have the culture of that book, and because Peter was illiterate, could not be able to share, could not be able to support. But the moment that she went back and opened that book, it was what would be then a new life on that particularly elderly woman. So the idea that I propose is to use Heidi as a way to bring the younger generation, or actually anyone that feels empowered by the story. The new literacy is AI literacy. So what it means, starting to understand and demystify what AI is, which is applied mathematics within an IT infrastructure using data to learn the cognitive behavior of humans. And now it's so sophisticated, where we're now in the era of agentic AI, which the difference is that before, AI was just doing one task. For example, driving a car across the road, accelerating, steering, braking, so from decelerating, to it can now make decisions. It can now be your partner. It can now be your AI friend. Yes. It can, which still, there needs to be also ethical AI based on that, and of course safety and all of that. But the point is that we are now in the era that AI is no longer a tool. AI is our companion. AI is our colleague. That means that it is changing as well as revolutionizing. So it's important to lose the fear. How? By bringing and demystifying what it is. So when children and young girls see, well, I have to learn calculus, I have to learn algebra, I have to learn exactly how the structure of a solution architecture behind looks like, how do I bring data without even being an expert in coding. Yeah. So you can use AI to teach you even AI to understand it better, and then a new world of opportunity opens. It opens that now they can have the incredible, what would be the innovation that women bring, that young girls bring, or even, like I said, all generations bring, which AI still cannot do. AI cannot generate something out of nothing. Only human beings and God can do that. So the innovation and empathetical aspect is what we're bringing there. So by teaching, using Heidi as what would be the new ambassador of AI literacy, that's one way that we could do it.
I completely agree with you, and I'm happy that you're saying this. But I have a critical question, because we have this problem when we do Heidi and AI and things like this. Because I can tell you we had big discussion in the background if we do a project like Heidi Goes AI. Because when you think about Heidi, you think about nature, authenticity, and so on. You don't think about AI, because AI, for the most people, is completely opposite. So Heidi stands for emotion. It's an emotional character figure. So how do we bring emotions into this topic or into these things when we use AI or communicate or convey Heidi through AI things? Is there any connections to emotions? I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, so that we're going into how do we teach empathy to an AI. Yeah? So even though this is quite controversial, and I know there is this Apple paper that says AI is dumb, and that's a different story. I don't want to go into that one. But to go into the important thing, number one, it has to get the data. That means it needs to listen to different people. So you need to collect the emotions for the different ages. It usually analyzes the way people talk, what expression is. So we have then petabytes and petabytes of video data for what it is called micro mimicking, for example, so that the AI learns what the different emotions are, and also at the same time data from the heart rate, data from the body temperature, data from other cardiovascular systems, and also the feedback. The person asks a question, how he reacts or how he thinks about something from an images. So it creates what it is an empathetic profile or personas. So that's how you teach emotions to an AI. So you need this diverse data. So. And it's usually done with volunteers, because people have to be open for that, as ethical AI also wants it in data protection. Yeah. So once you have it then, and also to bring the emotion there, I think it's very it's a very personal thing. So we have also what Agentic AI is really good at is on hyper personalization. You see it when you are buying something at a website and then you Google something and then 10 of those same articles appear. Or Siri just simply might be listening, might not. Okay, nothing against Apple. I'm an Apple fan. But the point is that the AI behind is creating profiles of you, is creating personas of you. So based on that, yeah, you can actually then empower yourself if you learn how to control the AI. That's why AI literacy is so important. That you make AI what it is, a work for you. Then you tell it, well, I want to have actually just happy emotions. Yeah, maybe I have a stressful day and I actually want to laugh. I like jokes about animals, etc. And then you can tell in the AI, yeah, just you can give it the command, just create a podcast for me that will cheer me up, talking about the Heidiseum, for example.
What Disney did with Snow White is that they changed Snow White and they wanted to the color and they wanted to adapt her that it needed to be a strong woman, so she was not meeting the prince. So the story changed. And
Also, dann noch ganz kurz. Yes, thank you. And I live in Zurich, so I know the story of Heidi really well. But what I find important about AI, because it's about intention and what you put in it. And you can do marvelous things with it, and you can do different things with it. And what they did in Disney with Snow White, that they changed the color of the skin of Snow White, and they wanted to empower her. So she's not meeting the prince in the end. So it's a different story. And although that is quite important to have female empowerment and strength, but the story of Heidi is that story that's powerful in itself. And AI could actually also change that. So, and what is then your idea about this controversial idea that you could adapt the story to adjust it to today's age? So that was basically my question. Because I want to keep Heidi as she is, but yeah.
Also, ich glaube, da können wir eigentlich auf Heidi kurz referieren, oder? Ja.
So
I can give one answer. So of course there is always the controversy when you change story A into story B that there's going to be an unlike. Yeah? But it only shows the evolution where we are. And I think that maybe, that's my humble opinion, Disney wanted actually to do something good that maybe didn't turn out the right way. And people want to keep those stories. So the point about it is about culture. It's just to say, well, the story is misogynistic, is authentic, and is showing the values from the time in which that story was written. So it can be used as a historical example on why it is actually not a good thing to be living in. So as a woman, of course, we want to be at home, we want to be helpful, we want to cook, we want to spend time with our family, but we don't want to be a slave of that work. Yeah, so that's the point of it, that you can use it, let's say, the negative example, but also explaining which ethics are you, let's say, making that assessment with. And that's when we use, and to go into that, is that ethics are always geo and cultural located. The ethics here in Western Europe are not the ethics of the Middle East, are not the ethics of China, are not the ethics of South America. So it's involved, and it's always important to understand that stories, culture, and ethics are geolocated and cultural values. So when we have that story, it is to say, well, I freeze this version, this instance, and then of course, from what would be then a artistic point of view, we are bringing a new version. And then of course, it is open for criticism. But it's still important to keep the original and then also explain from the different ethical aspects why it might be for one particularly geoethical location or not the best example.
Definitely, and I think as we're talking about stories and changing stories, I think digital storytelling is also a big tool to shape culture. So how does digital storytelling help people emotionally connect to big issues like climate or justice, even though they might be indifferent to these issues?
Happy to come in on that, and thanks for the question. I think I'll layer it in two ways. One is that digital allows the story to have a longer life, right? And it allows you to reach more people through it. But it also allows you to customize and tailor. So when we think about what you were just speaking as about contextualizing situation. If you take UN Live's project, Defenders of Planet Earth, the one that's in India, we talked about the first phase being a streaming series, the second phase being a digital activation, and the third phase being a grassroots activation. And when those come together, you'll have the scale that you're seeking to achieve. Now, the next level of that scale is, what we recognize is the way that the series has been built is transferable to other country contexts. So someone that would say, well, would you just dub it and run it in China? No, you wouldn't, because the key is having localized stories, localized storytellers, localized contexts and situations to bring up that momentum internally amongst the community to say, I connect with this is real, this is happening in my own backyard, how can I solve it? And as the digital community builds up across continents, then they'll become that broader understanding of how these defenders that are popping up all over the world and in different contexts actually are quite interconnected. So I think you create a movement that way.
And as you said, digital storytelling extends a story's life and its meaning. And I think that's what Heidi is trying to do as well, is using the power of digital storytelling, building a culture that's able to tell Heidi's story in a more powerful way. And it is powerful, and she's Swiss heritage. So I want to ask Dr. Kind that what role do you believe AI should play in preserving and shaping culture? And what happens if we don't lead it wisely? Because that's a big question that we have had for a long time, since AI.
So with AI, you always need to explain it definitions. Yeah? Mm-hmm. What do we define as culture? And what do we define, for example, as knowledge or as wisdom? And these entire collections. And also that all culture has an equal value of meaning for the entire world. So AI can help in preserving the status, categorizing it, and make it accessible to everyone worldwide, which is something that you can do with what would be huge language models, because they're no longer as large, when you look at O3 Pro from OpenAI. And now culture is accessible from, let's say, areas of the world that before would have been impossible. I would not have been able then to see exactly how many different languages there are and understand them then in India and the structure and the grammar. And it would have taken me before maybe years of going to different libraries to understand it. That was just one prompt. And OpenAI is a program O3 or 2 to be able also to create tables, to make me a summary, make me now a PDF. And now I'm able then to understand, well, what is the language of the area that I'm going when I'm visiting India? Give me at least a couple of sentences so I'm at least communicating the basics. So, and in that case, it was preserving their culture in regards to the language. Mm-hmm. So you can do that with that example with anything else. So it is very, very good at analyzing patterns and analyzing structure and also giving it back into different kind of ways. And also you can, let's say, have a summary adequate to your age, adequate to, let's say, your particular educational background. You can tell ChatGPT, explain me machine learning as a 5-year-old, and it will do. Explain me machine learning as a professor of physics and chemistry, and it would also do. So it has that power of democratizing the entire heritage of culture.
And since we're running a little short on time, I'm just going to ask a few rapid-fire questions. And it's going to be one rapid-fire question since we're running low on time. And this is open to everybody. This room is filled with advertisers, storytellers, and everyone else who is creating culture in their own way and in their own field. So what's your advice for them? Because culture isn't something we inherit, it's something we invent. So how do we reinvent culture and how we think what it is?
Well, you want to go first?
No, I'm sure. No, it just came to my mind because the first thing is we have to preserve culture. We have to preserve our heritage. That is our task, and that is what we have to do. That is what the UNESCO want, that we preserve our heritage. We don't want to change our heritage, you know what I mean? But it's a different story how we present our cultural heritage. And I think the digital platforms where all the young people are on TikTok, Instagram, and so on, this is a big chance for institutions like us who have 1,200 documents, flat documents, and how do we manage it to get them alive and to bring it to the new generation that they get inspired and say, wow, I want to go and to see all these stories behind the stories and so on. You know what I mean? We have to preserve, but in a modern way, and I think the new technology can help us to bring it to another level we have never seen before.
Exactly.
And I think this is a nice point to refer to the first illustrations from 1880, which are, by the way, drawn by Peter's great-grandfather. So it's a very personal story, the whole Heidi Heritage Project. So these first illustrations, and then you can show, please, Heidi Goes AI pictures, which were over 100 submissions. And here, it's really a nice example. So is it still Heidi or not? When do you tell if it's still Heidi? You know, we want to bring it to the future with artists, but just like Peter said, any generation has new models, and you know about it. So I think it's a good example because there was some criteria which you just could not leave, because if you leave them, then it's not Heidi anymore. For instance, it's very typical with Heidi is in the Alps, surrounded by nature, with the goats, with maybe the grandfather, the Peter, but she didn't grow up. Heidi never grows up. So when we have pictures with a grown-up Heidi, it's, you know, this is a kind of a border where you say, okay, this is not actually the core anymore of this phenomenon. You know?
So what's your advice for people in this room?
Well, if you want to reinvent something, then really look at the core of this object and try to find out the core. And AI can be a great help to identify and analyze these core issues, and then work with these core elements. And then you can bring it to a next level. That's what I think.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Kind.
Maybe I would have you then rephrase the question. So why is that important? Yeah, why is that important? If you could rephrase the questions to saying, well, why is that important?
So my question was, what's your advice for people in this room who are advertisers, storytellers, and leading change in their own field, in their own way, creating stories, using digital platforms and culture to shape their workplace around them? So what's your advice for them, and how do they do it using AI, if you will?
And so that's why I go back. So why is it important? So is everything working right now good for you? Do you think you need an AI? So the point is that you should be using AI in the areas that you need. So if you think that it's going to empower you when you have, for example, there's a retrieval augmented generation, which is a subdiscipline, which does that. It just grabs a lot of data and organizes it for you, like creating a huge mind map. So in that case, well, then it's important. Why? Because it helps me be able to have all my data together. Mm-hmm. So the advice into you is that you use it, again, not longer as a tool, but as a member of your team. And use it wisely. Use it only there where you need it. So if, for example, if you're in our trustee, regarding culture, you still need that one-to-one human empathetical contact. Mm-hmm. Because even though, let's say that the first generative AI artistic models that were done around between 1996 and 1997, even though before DALL-E existed. Mm-hmm. So the point is that, do we want to have that? That is defined by you. Do you want to have digital art? Is it something that is important for you? Is it something that you want to promote? The same thing with literature. The same thing if you are an advertiser. Of course, you can use AI to completely create a campaign where you don't need humans anymore. Can right now, let's say, create an agent that puts your product, puts your service in Snapchat and social media within 10 seconds. But the point is that, where is the particular personalization emotion? Mm-hmm. So involve, then you still need the people to bring and also do the validation. The human in the loop is very important. So I would say, yes, of course you have to digitalize, but don't forget the human in the loop factor for validation.
Thank you for that. That's a very important message that I think that everyone should be remembering, because there's always has to be human interaction with. What about you, Miss Angeline?
We are all human, and we have to remember that, right? We have to be there to serve each other, and we need there to lift each other up. And so when leveraging technology, lead from a lens of culture and think about how you can move the many to in a way that is valuing the individual contributions, but also promoting the values that we know are going to move the world forward. And that's what UN Live, what we seek to do. I mean, when you think about, we've talked about nature, we've talked about digital, we've talked about reach, and I think about our Sounds Right program. You know, it's such a powerful way of returning to nature from a sound perspective, but also from a preserving the earth perspective, but it's doing it through the power of pop culture. So thinking about how creativity can help us reach what we're going to do, that's my call to action for everyone here at Cannes, is thinking about how do you use your mandate, how do you leverage your core business practices and what you're trying to achieve, and doing it in a way that's leveraging culture in such a special way that you're solving the world's problems as well.
Thank you for that. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Stay tuned for the next conversation at World Women Cannes Agenda. Don't forget to tag Heidiseum and World Women Fund on all of your social media posts for this session. And thank you so much.